Glencoe Yellowjackets. Coach, if you would introduce the guys or let them introduce themselves and make some opening comments and take questions, we'd appreciate it.
That'd be great. With me over here on my right is Jordan Haney, and on my left is Lucas Huff. You said you wanted them to say something? You want me to say something? Oh, I'm going to say something? Okay. Jordan plays offensive line and defensive line for us, and Lucas plays offensive line and defensive line for us. So you notice I didn't bring any skill guys, all right? One of the things that we talk about in opening the season and talking about what kind of football team we want to be is be a football team that's physical in their nature on both sides of the football. And I think that these two guys, both being seniors, represent the kind of football players that in the football team that we want to have, which is one of a physical nature, and that's kind of where it starts. And so I took this job a little bit over a year ago. Matter of fact, I probably wasn't there very long before I was sitting right up here talking about Glencoe football and didn't know a whole lot about it. And now that we've gone through over 100 years of Glencoe football, I've been introduced and indoctrinated into Glencoe football, and so I have a better understanding of it. And they're like every football program, they want to win, and winning is complex. It takes a little bit of time to get it done, but when you come into a new program, the first thing you want to do is you don't want to shortchange the seniors that you have. And I thought last year our senior group played extremely hard and gave us everything they can and laid a good foundation for the years to come. And then this group right now has stepped into a better situation than what they've had. We've got a year under our belt, not only in the football program, but in the strength and conditioning and in our expectations. And people that come into our building on a sporadic nature, the first thing they talk about as they come in is just the change in the demeanor of our kids and how they handle themselves. Our kids probably don't realize it because it's been a year in the making, but people that don't come into our building a lot are already like, wow, it's a lot different than the last time I walked in here. So, and it's not from a aesthetic feature. I mean, our building still looks the same. It's just the guys that are inside the building look different and act differently.
Could you tell us returning starters, offense, defense, maybe some of the young guys that maybe step up that we haven't heard from Glencoe football?
Well, we lost some seniors that started for us last year. Obviously, they're graduated. But, across the front offensive line, every guy that's going to play across that front offensive line probably has played or started at one time or another last year. As we started the year, we had 41 guys on the roster last year, and we finished the last game with 28 in that last game. And whether they were injured or they were sick, because we did have some illness in that Week 10 game, we made great strides in the offseason, and now our roster is 47. We had 50, a little over 50 in the spring, but you do have a little attrition, guys that come out and decide, well, this really isn't for them. We're across the front offensive line. As we look down, we pretty much have the same group of guys that we played with last year at some point or another. So I'm really excited about that. These two guys lead us on both sides at guards. Of course, they're flip-flopped. This one plays left guard, so he should have sat over here, and this one plays right guard, and he should have sat over here. I'm confused. But, they're the stalwarts of what we do. And then as far as skill guys, our biggest pickup to me on the offensive side, we're having to replace Nolan Fairley, who had over 1,000 yards of offense. But we do have Aaron Mann back as a running back who played sparingly in 6 games and gained over 600 yards rushing last year, playing sporadically. And he had a really good spring. We've got Jake Boggs, who came out for football, who came back out, who's going to also spell him at running back, and that's going to help us a lot. But at quarterback, right now, Brady Kitchens is our starting quarterback, but Braylon Smith gives us another type of quarterback that can come in and help us, and both of those guys are going to be seniors this year. But then we've got Hayden Watson, who's a freshman, and he gives us another dynamic at quarterback. So it would not surprise me through the season that all 3 of those guys get some reps at quarterback for us. And if you've ever seen our offensive system, you understand why, because those quarterbacks really slash a lot as a running back. And so I can see those guys getting a lot of reps through there. And then Formation-wise, we have a formation or two that we've added in the spring because we've had a few kids come out that we can utilize their talents. We don't get too much away from what we've done in the Ugly Eagle, but we do get a wide out or two spread out because that's the type of athlete we have, where we can bring them inside the box and they've got to block somebody, or we can take them outside the box and they block them by alignment. So we get the same thing that we had in the tight formations, but we're able to remove that person out of the box. So offensive, our philosophy has not changed. I always hear people saying already, oh my gosh, Glencoe, they've changed their offense. Well, they don't know me very well. We're not going to change. We're going to win with what we can win with, and that's being a physical football team. But we do have the ability to put the ball in the air, but as we see fit, not necessarily that we're made to do it, but that we can do it. The other thing on the defensive side of the ball, we've kind of patterned our defense after our basketball team. And the reason I say that is I thought that last year we weren't as aggressive. I thought we were more passive. And a lot of that has to come when you start bringing in new coaches and programs and stuff that, there's a learning curve there. But I went and watched us play basketball this past year, and I was impressed with what Coach Chambliss was able to do on the basketball court and how they played up tempo from the opening tip to the very end of the game. So what we were able to do is I said, hey, that's how I want to play defense on football. And so we brought in that mentality, and I thought we had a really good spring. We also got 5 or 6 guys that play basketball that are now playing football. And so those guys are aiding us, especially on the defensive side of the football. Some on the offensive side, but especially on the defensive side. So that part's been very positive for us. So we had a good spring, and we saw a lot of good things that we wanted to see in those 10 days.
Coach, I sat in your office when you first got the job, and we talked about, the right guy stayed that wanted to stay and play for you. And since that time, you kind of dug in. One thing I've always admired about you is you don't make any excuses. No. The guys that want to be there, they're there, and they want to play with you. Now, you just mentioned your relationship with Coach Chambliss, and you have some of those guys out. How much different is it from day one that you walked in there to now to what we're about to see in this upcoming season?
Well, I think it'll be a lot of difference. I mean, one of the things that happens when you go to a school of our size, which is a smaller school, you can't afford to be specialized, I don't believe. And so we want all of the best athletes in our high school to play all sports, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, golf, fishing team, whatever. If you can be productive in that sport, then we're recruiting you to play those sports. And I think that our kids now have bought into it because they've seen, I'm the football coach, but I'm also the biggest basketball fan, baseball fan, softball fan. I'm at everything. And I'm not the AD. I'm there because I want to support our kids. And then if they can come help us in football, then I'm all for it. And I think that's what we've seen is that all of our guys are buying into the philosophy of, hey, if we can help, we're going to be out there. And so far, it really has paid off. And I think we're going to see some fruits of that labor this year.
Coach, I've always been a big weightlifting guy, a big power strength guy. And I look at these two guys here, look like they've spent some time in the weight room. And since last November, you've had a full off season to get your strength condition. Talk about how much progress you've seen made in that stride area.
Well, we have made progress. We're not where we want to be yet. I think that when you're building a program, you start in year one from the ground base, and I think it takes, a year to get guys where they get in the habit, in forming habits of how you want them to lift. And then I still think, after year 2, you're getting into your strength gains. Our guys have gained strength, but my goal is that every year we keep improving in that strength level. And I think that's what we've seen is that these guys have gotten stronger, but it's more consistent. There are no days off.
What do what is the expectations this year for you guys? This is for all three of you, by the way.
Well, that I heard Coach earlier. Expectations are, we play it one game at a time, and I've never gone into a football game that I didn't feel like we had a chance or had an opportunity to win a football game. I think that, the one thing you can tell from our kids is they feel the same way. I think that when we first went there, the thought process was, I hope we could win a game. And then there's expectations of winning a game. That's a whole different thing. Everybody hopes they can win. But it's when you have guys believing that they're going to win that you end up seeing the fruits of your labor. We talk about, and I'm steering this a little bit different, we talk about getting guys to buy into your program. We went through the transfer portal within our own high school this year. And the reason I say that, I look out, and I'm using defensive backs as an example. I'm looking out there, and everybody that went to spring practice this year had a white jersey if they played for us last year. Everybody wore a white practice jersey. All the new guys that came out wore gold practice jerseys because that's what we had available. So when I went out to spring practice, I was watching the defensive backs one day, and there were 2 white jerseys and 10 gold jerseys. So we had a total transformation in our secondary from what we had last year. And it's that buying in and the expectations. We're going to do what we need to do within our own school to up those expectations. And, winning breeds winning. Basketball, we were a lot better this year. Baseball, we were solid. We had a lot of first in both of those, beating teams that we might not have beaten in the past. And we did beat them in basketball and baseball. And so now that carries over. Those kids have a lot of confidence coming out of those sports, and that carries over into football because it's the same kids playing the same kids.
Coach, talk about the support you receive from the Glencoe community. Been covering it for years. Win or lose, no matter how the team is doing at one particular point, the stands are always full.
Unparalleled. Last night we had a foundation meeting, our Glencoe Athletic Foundation meeting, and we had a parents meeting after that, and we had well over 100 and something people in attendance. They obviously support their children, and we say win or lose. Everybody wants to win, so we talk about that. But what we talk about is how can we improve your child? And I think that's the number one thing is what can we do to make it better for your child? And the number one thing is getting those people to support and buy into what we're doing. And our community has been absolutely outstanding.
Coach, I know that you, in your head, you're going to win all 10 ball games. You're going to be the region champion. But I want you to tell me a little bit about those other guys. I've seen probably 4 or 5 of these guys in 7-on-7s this year that you're going to be playing in your region. Some of them can chunk it around pretty good. So I was really impressed when you talked about defensively and playing a little bit faster. Give us an idea about the region as a whole, what you expect this year.
They're all good. When you go into that, I think Coach made a good point earlier when he's talking about how you talk about other teams. And, you don't always give yourself enough credit. I think some of the things we do from an offensive standpoint and some of the things we'll do from a defensive standpoint will give people some trouble, or they'll have to make adjustments. But, every football team we play against, we have the utmost respect. I'll be the first to tell you I can't tell anything from 7-on-7. And I hate 7-on-7. And these guys will tell you that. I don't go. We went to one this year and ran some offensive formations that we will never run only because it was to give other people work, because they don't want to line up against 2 tights and a wing and a sniffer back and have us run play action all night. They want to see something from a spread deal. So I put a bunch of plays on a band, so we had guys out there running routes that we'll never run on Friday night. All right? And so I really can't tell. You might be able to tell when you're talking about them chunking it. Nobody gets 4 seconds in high school to throw a football. And they give them 4 seconds all the time in 7-on-7, and guys are sprinting all the way to the line of scrimmage and throwing the ball at the line of scrimmage with no blockers in front of them. And I'm thinking, that's not real football. That isn't going to happen on Friday night. So, I have the utmost respect for everybody in our region. And our region's flipped a little bit. I know Coach Smith has moved from Piedmont to Westbrook, and I know that we've had some changes here and there. And probably if you look at it on paper, and that's the only way I can look at it, Sylvania has the most people coming back. Yeah. And they gave everybody fits, and we're right there, nipping on Piedmont's heels last year. So I don't know enough about the other teams. I'm just worried about mine. But I would say on paper, Sylvania would be my odds-on favorite. After that, I really can't tell you a whole lot, because the only guys I've really worried about for the last year are the 47 that are in our locker room and what we're going to be able to do.
Hey, guys, we'll ask you one question before the press conference is over.
Yeah,
Talk about the attitude of the team this year. As you guys obviously are leaders, Coach brought you to represent Glencoe at Media Day. You're around your teammates when the coaches are not around. Talk about the attitude in the second year of Coach Scott Martin as you go into this year? Do you see a change in attitude, and what is the attitude going into the season?
I think that everybody's bought into our football program, and everybody just wants to work harder and win every game that we can, and everybody will do what they can to win as much as they can.
Yeah, everybody's pushing each other in the weight room and everything, and everybody wants to win games. So,
I'll add one thing to that, and I know I'm taking that time, but the one thing I'll say about these two young men is they're both leaders in the weight room. And I've always said this, when you have a coach-led football team, that's usually not a very good system, a good idea that you're going to be very good. I remember having a team at Ohatchee that it was a coach-led team, and we struggled. But once your team starts becoming player-led, and the coaches are basically, structuring it and organizing it and watching it, but once it's led by your players, you got a chance to be really good. And that's the one thing I've seen a change is guys wanting to be led, but at the same time, they're being leaders in the weight room, in the conditioning, off the field, doing the right things. And I'm not having, everybody can do the right thing when Coach Martin is sitting in the room. But how many times are we doing the right thing when we're not sitting in the room? That's where you've got to have tremendous leaders, and these guys have done a great job of that.
Coach, thanks. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you being with us today. Good luck in the 2023 season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.